Okay, well, welcome to our March sock madness. Here we go. Many of you have done it before, and anyone that this is your first time, kind of wave at me if this is your yay. Welcome, first timers. Fabulous. If you saw our little promo video, you heard from Steph about how she left work to go knit. She took a couple days off. Just got to warn you that March Sock Madness really gets you pumped about knitting socks. And it does a number of things, and you'll have a chance to think about what you want it to do for you. But it helps you kind of get refocused, helps you dig some things out that maybe you need to finish. It helps you maybe try some new techniques that you haven't tried, all sorts of things. So several things tonight. So each Tuesday night we'll come together at 6 o'clock. We'll make a recording, and we'll be doing different things in different topics. So tonight we're kind of doing our kickoff, talk about what you want to learn, et cetera, et cetera. We're also I'm going to show you my socks that I'm doing, the Thicksgiving Socks from Summerlee Knits Design. And we'll talk a little bit about marling and how to put your colors together. If some of you, I know we kind of mentioned that you might have some colorways. If you want to hold them up, we'll see how we might put those together. I'll also talk about how I fit that sock to work for me, taking into account all of the different things we've learned with sock knitting. And then I've got some we've got the Turkish tutorial. That's fun. The Turkish twisted tutorial tonight. We're going to take a look at it, and then if you want to stay on, we'll do it step by step together. So I know some of you have got some yarn with you that we're going to practice with that. So that's a little bit about how March Sock Madness works. Next Tuesday, Summerlee will be on. She's a designer out of Oklahoma, and she will be our guest speaker next Tuesday. If you haven't had a chance to look at her patterns on Ravelry or on Instagram, you're going to want to do that. She's very enthusiastic, writes a great pattern, does really good looking stuff. So she will be on with us next Tuesday. And then the following Tuesday, we're going live to Jessica's dye studio. So I'll be doing the Zoom from her dye studio. She'll talk about the process, give you a chance to see what things look like, et cetera, et cetera. We're also going to have a Ready, Set, Go on that Tuesday, which I'll talk about in a little bit longer. And then the 22nd, we'll come back together and see how many of those Ready, Set, Go socks got done. We wrap up on the 29th, which just kind of the final countdown. It's amazing. And we finish with our first in-person event for the year, which will be on I said it would be in March, but it's actually April 1st, no fooling. And Jessica's going to be serving the drinks, courtesy of her. And we have lined up a caterer that will have a grazing table. Those are all the big things right now, but they don't have grass. They have meats, cheeses, fun veggies, and all of those kinds of things. So mark a calendar for that. That will be at the shop, and all you have to do is finish a sock. Finish a sock to get qualified. So we're going to talk about the prizes. We're going to talk about things that you can. We're having a drawing every week, and how you get in the drawing every week. There is a chat that you can write your questions, and we can answer your questions that way. But I want you to think about what you'd like to accomplish with your March Madness this year. So some of you are new, some of you are experienced. What kinds of things would you like to maybe to accomplish just personally this year? What's your plan for March Madness? Just kind of wave at me and tell that way I can call on you and you can share some of those things. I got two screens, so I got to check both screens. Okay. Who's willing to share? All right, Linda.
Okay. I would like to make a pair of socks that fit. I made a pair of socks probably 7 years ago. And of course, they're like everybody else's first pair of socks. They don't fit. So I'm anxious to learn how to do it properly, the right way, and to knit a pair of socks that actually fit.
Hey, very good.
And look nice.
Very good, Linda. Okay, great. Thank you for sharing. Who else? Yes, Mickey.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to stay with the class, but I have an idea of trying something new.
What would you like to try new?
I am making all of the Fair Isle Christmas stockings, and I want to do them toe up. So I want to try using your Turkish Cast On.
There you go.
For my toe, and then when we get to the heel, I'll do whatever heel you're doing on my big Christmas stocking. But I also knit a lot of regular socks. And
great.
I have been for about 30 years, but I love new things. So
yeah, absolutely.
I've never done a Turkish cast on in all that time. I always use the Judy's, so this is something new.
Great.
The way you held your needles today in your tutorial, I have watched a million videos on that, and I never figured out exactly what they were talking about. But today, you started going just from like a windshield wiper instead of going around.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I'm glad. Thanks, Mickey. Thank you. Great. Who else? Steph, I know you've been doing some planning. I saw your picture. What are you planning? So you're a participant. We heard about you sneaking out from work. So what kinds of plan did you do for your March Madness?
Well, I kind of sorted through the yarn that I had and picked out the colors that I wanted to use. And then my goal is to make the mates for ones that I'm missing. So I've got 4 of those. I would like to top my completed socks from last year, but I don't know. I think I'm going to not have as much time available this year. So we'll see. So that's why my list turned from goals to possibilities, because I don't want to stress about it or beat myself up if I don't get everything done. But
okay. Well, shoot for the moon, land in the stars. That's what we say, right? Good plan. I hope some of the rest of you took a look at. I did the same thing. I dug through my bags to find my socks that I need to kind of make that number 2 for. So thanks for sharing. Anyone else want to share just something you're kind of wanting to learn or do or meet a challenge for this Sock Madness? Ann Ball?
Well, somehow I have 7 socks started. So I'm hoping to, I don't know how it happened. Someone must have done it for me. I don't know, but I'm hoping to finish them. And what I'm really hoping is I'm almost there with my fit. So I'm hoping to get it spot on. That if I do that many heels and stuff in a row, that I'll have it down pat. So that's really my goal.
That's a great strategy. With seven socks knitting, you could do 7 heels in a row.
If I can't get it, I'm a hopeless cause, I think.
Now, I remember, what was it? I remember that story growing up about the cobbler and the elves came and fixed the shoes in the night. Does anybody remember that story? Yeah. Okay. That's what it was. And somebody came and cast all those socks off.
I'm sure it was.
I'm sure it was. They found all your number 0s and 1 needles and filled them up, didn't they?
Right. That's right.
All right. Well, you're going to have a chance to share. So like in many of our classes and our knit alongs, we have a Ravelry thread. And so that thread is there. You'll want to go to the thread and you'll be able to introduce yourself and answer some of these. There's 3 questions if you're a beginner or if you're an experienced sock knitter. And this is all written down, so don't worry, you can look at it. Number 2. Oh, I can't even remember. See how fast it goes out of my head. Number 2, something, and number 3 is what you like to accomplish. We'll look at it, but you'll have a chance to do that. And that's how you get entered in a drawing this week. So every week we're having a drawing. There's 3 ways to get entered in a drawing. One's to finish a sock. 2's to go share on Ravelry about yourself and your sock knitting interests and what you'd like to do. And then 3 is being here live. So because you're on live, I've got your names down, your name, you will be entered. Now, if you watch it later, sorry, just not a way for us to track that. So it's for benefiting those of you that can get on with us live. And then next week, we will have that drawing from those of you that have been on, those of you that posted, and those of you that have brought a sock in. And we had our first sock, right, Kay and Ann? You were there at the shop today, and our first sock came in today. It was her birthday. So I think Christy was in and treated herself to another skein of sock yarn, and as well as completed our first sock. And as you know, we hang those on the board. So we're off and going. And last year we did do 150. We hit 150. So we've got to beat that. We've got to beat that this year. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about the Thicksgiving Socks from Summerlee Knits. And you can grab, this was a Thanksgiving kind of Thanksgiving time type of thing. And what I was most interested, and I had tagged these at Thanksgiving, what I was most interested in was really the marling of it. And so she's got 3 different sock patterns in here. One has a little cable at the top, one is a rib, and one is just what we call vanilla. So all of you that when we refer to a vanilla sock, we simply mean that you're knitting round and round. I've taught beginning socks this year. My new sock knitters are like, what's a vanilla sock? And, you know, we get caught up in that. We know the language, and we don't know that it's just a round and round. But we're also doing some marling in March because it kind of fits. And so I grabbed some yarn because I didn't think I had any at home. Of course, you know, we as staff, we say the same thing you say. So you come in and you say, you know, I really don't need any more yarn. And you know what? We say that same thing. I really don't need any more yarn, but that's what we do. We find more yarn because I want it tomorrow. So I'm going to go to my camera and I'm going to show you my, we'll go live and then I'll show you my socks. Then I have a little tutorial of how I'm weaving in some ends. So let's go. It takes, there's a little bit of a lag here when we go to the screen share. And I will turn from the screen so that I can show you the sock. So this is my Thicksgiving sock. And one of the things that Summer, and gosh, we're going to get to hear from her next week. So I don't feel like I need to share a lot about this, but I do want to just show you what I did. These were the 2 yarns that I got lots of things to show you tonight. So these were the 2 yarns that I ended up putting together. And one of the things that she talks about is she talks about to create a subtle pattern marl, mix together 2 variegated yarns with or without speckles. Select soft colors that aren't too vivid or loud, and they'll produce a lovely blend that seamlessly highlights both of them. She mentioned about using too heavy of a variegated yarn could cause some pooling. And as we know, sometimes variegated yarn will cause pooling. You can see a smidge of that down here in my toe, not too much, but a little. I think this, I'm very, very pleased with how this turned out. So what I did is I looked for kind of the bright, bold color that I was seeing in the yellow colorway, and I'm seeing really an orange and kind of a red. I could have gone with the green, but I was seeing more orange. So then I found this one that had orange and a pink, which ended up with the main body of the sock. Of course, then I carried the red yarn with, let me think of what I did. I did the red yarn with the orange and red to create the cuff. Then I dropped this red and I knit holding two strands together. So when you're marling, you're holding two strands together. And I held those together. And when I got down, I did the heel, our fish lips or our short row heel. And I dropped then the orange yarn. I dropped this yarn and introduced the green yarn that then I used with the yellow. I did my heel, then I dropped the green and reintroduced. Well, actually, I left it waiting for me there on the other end of the heel. When you know that we do the fish lips short row heel, you can leave that yarn waiting. I picked it back up, knit the foot, and then finished with the orange and the yellow. Now, what I'm going to tell you about this is really a DK weight sock. My gauge is 6 stitches, 5.5. And she wanted it a little closer to the 6 stitches, 6 almost 7. But I just didn't want to go down. I have to go down a needle size to begin with, and I just didn't want to go down again. Because sometimes when you knit with 2 yarns together, it's a little bit of work, not just from shoveling the yarns, but just even knitting them creates a little bit of work. And I did this on a 3, which meant I think Summer suggests a 4. So I will always go down 1. Even to get it closer to gauge, I would have had to go down to a 2. And I just did not want to knit it on a 2. So then I said, well, how am I going to know what I'm going to do for size? So a typical DK sock, I would typically cast on 64 stitches. With this DK sock, I cast on 48. Okay. I cast on 48 and I used the number 3. I'm sorry. My gauge, oh no, I don't have to see, it's been a while since I made these notes. Yes, I used the 3 for that. Now, one other tip that I had never heard about with marling, which I thought was very interesting. So if any of you are going to try this, let me show you up close. You see, and she talks about this in the pattern. Do you see how at one point the yellow yarn is on the right side of the stitch? Because this is considered a stitch. 1 stitch, even though it looks like 2, it is 1 stitch. And one of the things that Summer talked about was kind of rotating so that the yellow doesn't always sit on the right side of that double up. If you look a little further down here, I've got yellow on the right side quite a bit. So here I was paying a little more attention. I'm not going to sweat that. But if I look down and I saw it, it helps keep it from pooling, helps keep it from looking blotchy yellow. Then you just kind of make sure when your 2 yarns you're working together, you could twist them a little bit so that, and that's not going to hurt anything on the back side. You can't really tell on the back side that you've got 2 yarns there, together. I am ready to do this heel. I can knit this cuff. If I sit down and knit it, I can knit it in an evening because it knits that fast because it's a larger weight yarn. I'm not going to be able to wear these socks in my shoe unless I go get bigger pairs of shoes. So they're kind of a snow boot sock or a hiking boot sock, or like when it gets cold again, which it will in Nebraska, a sock that then I could just wear around, that I could wear around the house. Now, to do the same short row heel, I'm going to go to the same way. I go to the last stitch and do the short row. And I've got these numbers written down. They're not in my pattern as I thought they were. So I'll write down exactly how many short row stitches I did and how many I had in between. But the sock, it really turned out really well. When I was making the heel, when I was making it, I felt like it was kind of small, but it fits like a dream. The whole sock fits like a dream. So I use my same numbers. I knit my cuff 6.5. I did my heel, and then I knit my foot 5.5. And then I did the toe. My toe is a little boxy. I think I should have gone a little further before I did. I don't think I did enough, but it fits. It could be just a row or two short, but you know what? Like all of our sock knitting, this is trial and error. So with sock knitting, how did we get to September of 2003? My heavens, let's try something else. I got it. Let's go to this. All right, now I'm going to show you a video of how I introduce that other yarn. Let's see, lots happened since I filmed this video. How I introduce that yarn. I'm knitting the Thicksgiving Socks by Summerlee Designs. It's a marled sock, and so you're introducing colors. And I wanted to show you how I would introduce my next color. So my sock is knit with 5 different marled colors. And the cuff has been done with this skein and with a red. I am done with the cuff. And now I'm ready to introduce the yellow yarn and cut off the red yarn. I'm a continental knitter. And so to show you how to weave in your ends, what I have learned and really like is starting the new yarn I'm going to introduce about 6, 8, 10 stitches prior to when my beginning of round. So I need to introduce my yellow yarn right now. In order to do this, you have to do a little continental and you have to do a little throwing. And so this is my working yarn that typically would be on my left hand. I have moved it to the right side because I'm going to be throwing with that. You're going to wrap the yarn up and over and just lay it over your project, up and over that yarn. And then this is a purl. And so I'm going to enter the stitch to purl. And then I'm going to take my working yarns and I'm going to trap then that new yellow yarn. And so I'll do a purl stitch and I'll do another purl stitch. And then I'm ready to do a sidebar. I should have brought the yarn forward to do that. So you still do it, but I should have brought the, I don't throw that. I don't purl that way. So I had to go back and fix that. But in all transparency, bring the yarn forward and trap it first, and then you're ready to go. Stitch. So I'll take the yarn behind. I'm going to go ahead and put that tail back behind. And now I'm going to trap the yellow yarn. So you enter your stitch as if to knit. I go under the yellow yarn, then I wrap the stitch and I take the yellow yarn back off, and that then traps it in that stitch. Since typically I would do every other stitch, but since this is a knit and a purl, 2 knits, 2 purls, I'm going to trap both of the knit stitches. So you wrap, you go under, wrap it, unwrap it, pull it off, and it's trapped. Now I'm going to pull the yarn forward and do my 2 purls, and I'm just going to leave my yellow yarn back waiting for me. And now I'm ready again. Yarn behind, enter, go under, wrap the stitch, unwrap the yarn you're trapping, do another one, go under, wrap, unwrap the yarn you're trapping. Now we're ready for 2 pearls. And we finished this round. I'm ready to now cut the red yarn and begin working with just the yellow yarn and the orange yarn. And next I'll show you how then I weave in the red yarn, and I'm ready to continue knitting them. Okay, we'll go to the next one. Whoop. Maybe. All right, and I'm ready to now weave in this red yarn. I've cut the red yarn. You can see where I've trapped that yellow yarn on the knit stitches. Typically you would do this every other stitch, but it's difficult to do with the pearl. What I will do with this yarn is I will weave this yarn in, but typically you would not have to do the weaving in. This now begins stockinette. So this is an easier way to really trap that yarn. I've got my 2 that I'm going to work with now in my marling. And again, I'm still going to keep that in my right hand, even though I would typically tension my yarn in my left hand. So you'll pull it around to begin working the magic loop, and we're going to work stockinette. This is my tail. And I'm going to enter the stitches if to knit, go up and over, and then I will wrap as if to knit, unwrap, take the stitch off. I'm going to do a second one right away because that's my turn. So you go under the yarn you're trapping, wrap with your working yarns, unwrap, and then bring your knit stitch out. Now I'm going to skip one, just do a normal. And now I'm going to trap. Unwrap, bring your yarn through. Skip one, trap. Skip one, trap. And I've done 8. That's typically what I like to do. You can see, got a lot of sun coming in. You can see that you don't really see the red yarn. If we look behind, you'll see how it is locked into the stitches. So at this point, I'm going to slide my yarns over to the right, over to the left. And then I'm just going to take the red yarn, drop it, and then begin my stockinette knitting that I will do for approximately 6.5 inches. And then when I'm done, I can make a decision about weaving this back in if I want to. I have typically found that I can snip it off and I'm good. Weaving in as you go has really changed my attitude about working with multiple colors in all of my knitting. Okay. So we're going to kind of work on that all month long. And I took that on kind of at the beginning of the year as a challenge to do all of my, and I even did it with my sweater. When I finished my color work, I did the weaving in with it. And it's made a huge difference. Sometimes I do weave it back. If you've got a nice wool yarn that's sticky, you really don't need to do it. If I feel like it's secure, then I would possibly just, or not would, I clip it off. But every once in a while, like that one, you saw the difference, the 2 knits, 2 pearls. You know, it's best done on a stockinette than a pearl. Has anyone else been doing the weaving in as you go? Okay, good. Great. It's kind of a life changer, isn't it? It really is making a difference. So I wanted to show that to you right away so that as you're working with your yarns, you could do that on your DK socks. Any questions about on the DK socks? Anything on fit or anything you'd like to know about DK weight sock? Is anybody going to do one? Try one. Is anybody going to try some marling? Do you have some marling you want to hold up? Anybody got some yarns there? Steph, I bet's got a few. Okay, let's see what you got, Steph. Hold them a little closer. Oh, nice. So it looks like you've got a darker pink. And what's your other one there?
This is the Knit Lincoln from last April. I have both of these left over from my Stephen West shawl, so I thought those would be good to use up.
Absolutely. So you're going to do then you've got some baby bees to put with it. Looks nice. I like the intensity and the light. Very good. Very good. Anybody else have one you want to show that you're thinking about marling? Anybody thinking about some of you bring your colors that you want to show marling? Okay. Well, I would encourage you to look in your stash, or you can come to the shop and find one. You know, we have a lot of intense colors. And so, but we do have some nice lighter ones that Jessica has dyed that would be a nice combination. And typically fingering weight counts for our finished sock, but we are making an exception this March for DK weight. A DK weight sock. As you know, with all of your socks to count, it has to be our yarn. So that's just how it goes. We're giving you the prizes. And so it has to be yarn you have bought at some point or are going to work with in the future, that you have purchased from Knit Paper Scissors. So let's talk now about that Turkish cast on. So one of my goals is to knit toe-up socks. And I feel like I can knit toe-up socks because I know my numbers and I can work on my fit that way. So that means that I know that I can knit my sock and I can do 5.5, do my heel and do my 6.5, 7-inch cuff. And I've got it. So there's lots of tutorials on Turkish cast-ons. But you know, when I watch tutorials, they don't often tell you the little things that you have to then go back and go, now, quite how did she do that? So I'm hoping with my tutorial here that I did that for you. I did my tutorial on Rowan, so a number 6 needle. So it'll look a little larger than doing it on a sock needle. I'll show you this, we'll talk through it, and then we'll finish up with what prizes we're giving away this week and all of some other fun announcements of what we're doing. And then I'll stay on. And if you want to try doing the Turkish cast on, we'll do it together and we'll coach you through it. So here it is. We'll go back to screen share. And I'm going to demonstrate how to do the Turkish cast on. This is often used for toe-up socks, and it is used with 2 needles similar to like a magic loop. What you do is you start with a slip knot that you then put on the top needle, and you'll cast on half the number of stitches that the pattern calls for. So in my instance, my sock calls for 20 stitches. So I'm going to wrap. It's not really casting on, I guess it is, but we're wrapping first. And I'm going to wrap it 10 times. So again, your slip knot's on the top needle, and I keep my index finger right on top, and then your working yarn is going to come underneath the needle. So you don't want to wrap it over, you want to wrap it underneath. So we'll count 1, and then I secure it with my index finger, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. It's really important then that you put your index finger on that top of the last wrap, because it's loose. It's not really anchored anywhere. And then you're going to be flipping these 2 needles 180 degrees. So you're used to working magic loop, you would flip horizontally. This is kind of a complete 180 flip. So I keep my index finger here, and then I'm going to just flip the needles so that they are facing the opposite direction. And then you're going to want to make sure that you haven't lost that last wrap. What you'll do then is you'll bring the bottom needle out. And again, it's very loose. You'll bring the bottom needle out. You're basically knitting that wrap, and you'll knit into the very first wrap and create a stitch. So we'll go across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And again, it's loose. We're a little more secure now. And instead of, typically in Magic Loop, we would turn and then we would push. But with doing our Turkish Cast On, you're going to want to push that bottom needle in till both needles are again facing to your left. And then you're going to make the flip. Again, we don't have to worry so much about these yarns because we've secured them more. So you'll flip it 180 degrees. You'll get your working yarn to the back. Be careful not to knit with your tail. And then you're going to pull the bottom needle out again. Now this first stitch is your slip knot, and you can just slip that off. We don't need it. It was just a kind of secure thing. So we just slip that off. And now we'll knit across these 10 stitches again. And this will secure everything in place. And then we're going to do the slide again. So we're starting to get a really nice, this would be what we would be familiar with as a Kitchener when we Kitchener our toe. So again, you slide your stitches or slide the needle back. So everything's pointing left. We'll flip it again. And we're going to go around one more time. So we'll pull the needle out and knit across the 10 stitches. And pull the needle in. Back in, flip one more time, 180. Pull the needle out, and this will be our final. It would be like doing 2 rounds of the cast on to give us a nice, secure toe. And then you would be ready to do what your pattern calls for. So let's take a look here. Really nice, smooth toe. That's the very tip of your toe. And we'll turn it around and get ready to magic loop. And then you would start doing your increases. So instead of decreasing for a toe, we're going to be increasing whatever your pattern calls for. My pattern calls for make one left and to make one right. One thing you'll want to pay attention to is that as knitters, we sometimes get lazy in using the tail as our beginning of round, but this is our beginning of round. And so it would be important that you tuck a little removable marker in there so that then as you start to go around and start magic looping, where you pull the back needle around and start your work, you'll know that this is your beginning of round. Okay. Then I have whoop. I thought I had one little picture there. There's a picture of how it looks. So you're basically setting up for magic loop. And you see where that really is your Kitchener. So for those of you that hate the Kitchener aspect of a sock, you're not going to have to do that. Now you are going to have to do a little fussier bind off of your cuff. So it's fussy one way, fussy the other way. You know, you have to pick your fussiness. But I know some people are just not very fond of Kitchener at all. I don't mind it, and I don't mind the cast off, but you've got to do a loose cast off, because you can't knit that whole sock and then do too tight of a cast off and can't get it on. So, you know, there's a whole anatomy to sock knitting, but this is how it looks. And then I have done, I am doing the little Santa socks. And so I've done my toe up. So I've got my first toe up ready to go. I'm actually ready to start adding in my other colors here. So you can see that I've got it to a place where I will start adding the red color in. I'm going to be knitting, I'm just calling them the Santa socks because I can't pronounce the name. So they're the little Nomi Santa socks. So I'm going to be doing those toe up. We do have those kits in the shop, and that's my toe up sock goal for this month. All right. So questions on the Turkish Cast On? Who's done it before? Some of you have done it, haven't you? Okay, good. Great. That's fun to do. You know, it's just real loose right there. You know, you feel like you're just knitting into a strand. It's like, where does this even belong, or where does it go? I know, Mary, you and I, we did toe up one time, and we did what? It was some crazy Italian kind of thing, wasn't it? And I still see Mary and I in the back room for trying to figure out. We're doing two at a time, weren't we, Mary? I think so, Mary Teeters.
Oh yeah, I remember doing it. I don't. It was yeah, I think it was out of that book, Toe Up Socks.
Yeah,
So
it was.
that's what I'm trying to learn. Yeah.
You were kind of part of my adventure in learning to knit socks. Did you have a sock show and tell there?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I was trying to do your toe up here, and I was having a little trouble trying to figure out when you say you switch 180 degrees. I somehow went a little different because I got some.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was gonna just point out that I did one of my. I've only done a couple pairs of socks in the last 6 months or so, but these are DK socks. And which I didn't realize when I started them, but I really like the pattern. They're called flower knot socks.
Neat.
And yeah, I was all ready to start them, and I realized that I needed DK, so I had to go back to the store and get DK. But they went really fast since they were DK, and I do wear them just as slippers.
Yeah, very good. Well, we're going to practice that Turkish Cast On for those of you that want to stay on and practice it. But before we do that, let's talk about what we're going to be able to win during March Sock Madness. Are we up for that? Good for that? Okay, let's go. We're going to go one more time to our Ravelry, and I'm going to show you the thread. I think most of you have found our Ravelry discussion board, and if you go to the discussion board, then you can find, well, hopefully, where is it? It's probably all the way at the end. March Sock Madness. I got to link it so it stays at the top. Okay, so March Sock Madness. So this has all the things, what we're doing. You can kind of keep track of it. Tuesday nights, our goal. 2 shorties count as 1. You can count 2 DK socks. So if you're going to make a pair or 2, however, you can count 2 DK socks. We've got our sock hop. So tonight we're doing our kickoff. Our teaching was Thicksgiving from Summerlee. And we demonstrated the Turkish Cast On. How you're going to be entered in a drawing is you finish a sock. So if you finish a sock in March and this week between now and next Tuesday, and you can send us a picture by text. The shop phone is a cell phone, so we love it when you text. Do put your name. We don't always know who you are. Do put your name. Send it to us in an email. You can put it here, but I do a follow-up with us on this so that we can make sure that we get it get it counted. We're counting on you to be able to keep track as well. We do our best, but you can imagine when we get a bunch of these coming out as fast and furious, we might miss you. We don't miss you on purpose. And we aren't offended if you let us know that we don't have that sock down for you. So you get to put your little sock on, join us live on Zoom. So I've got your names down, and then you answer these 3 questions. So here are the questions. Are you a new sock knitter or experienced? What would you like to learn or improve on during this month? And what are your sock knitting goals for the month? What I know about goal setting is that if you share them, you're more likely to reach them. Okay. And I have to tell you that I worked on mine this afternoon. And the minute I kind of decided what my goals were, I just got all about it. I'm just like, okay, I've got to get this little one done and I've got to get that one done. So, you know, as goofy as we are as people, human beings, whatever works. And that's kind of what's been fun about March Sock Madness, is that you get a chance to really, kind of get things going. And so this week, what we're going to be drawing for is Wanderlust, and this is a really popular book. It's from Modern Day Knitting, and it's all sock knitting. The whole little book is all sock knitting, and it's full of sock knitting patterns. I've used a lot of these patterns in my socks. So we're going to be giving that away next week. We'll have some other things that we're going to be giving away. But then there's going to be some things that are going to happen all month long. So for our first time sock knitters, so this is kind of your first time knitting a sock, you're going to meet the challenge, you're going to do it. We've got, if you get a pair done by the end of the month, and you know what, if you get one pair, as any sock knitter, if you get one done in the month, it's all great. That's all you got to do. If one's your jam, one's your jam. If you're motivated to do more, that's okay. You know, we've often talked about we're judgment free. And so we're happy for you to do one, or we're happy if you want to do 100, go for it, you know, whatever you'd like to do. So if you're a first time sock knitter, we've got a little KPS sock camp stitch marker, because it's kind of like being in camp, isn't it? That you get this first sock plowed through. We're going to have our top 3 knitters, and that will be for those that are most completed. And completed simply means that you finish them. So they might be ones you started last year. You can finish them, even if they're midway, midstream, they get to count, or maybe you start them from the beginning. If there's a tie, it'll be broken by the number of socks that you knit from cast on to cast off in the month. So you could say, I did 10 socks, 3 of them were from beginning to end, and that's how we would break a tie. Okay. And then ready, set, cast on, go. So we did this in the summer and had a ball of fun with it. And we did it with shorty socks, but we're going to try it with a full pair of socks. And so that means your cuff needs to be at least 5 inches. That seems reasonable. We can't just do a 2-inch cuff, a 5-inch cuff. So on March 15th, we'll ring the bell and you'll have a week to knit a pair of socks if you'd like to take that challenge on. Again, this is up to you. You don't want to do it, that's all right. That's okay. But if you say, hey, I kind of like that challenge, we had so much fun with this last June. You couldn't even believe how fast people got those socks knit. So Ready, Set, Go is going to be on Monday, March 15th. So at Jessica's, we'll ring the bell and you'll get to. If you finish your pair of socks, if you finish one of those, you'll get a baby bee. And if you finish the pair, you will get a new center sock winder tool from Katrinkles. They'll be available to buy, but if you'd like to earn yours free, you could take that little challenge on March 15th. We're also going to be having a large grand prize drawing, and our grand prize drawing will be staff this past weekend got a little Manger mini sock bag. So these are our new bags that we've had, the oilcloth bags that we've carried in the shop. We have more coming in. So we're going to be giving away a grand prize. I know all of staff has said that they've got their socks here in their Manger bag. So that will be our grand prize drawing. So every time you're on Zoom, every time you submit a sock, every time you post on Ravelry, like what we've asked for this week, then you'll get your name entered. And we'll draw for one of these at the very end, and you'll get it at the party on April 1st. So you can see that I've gone down and written my story about what I'm working on, what my goals are. I have 2 that I want to finish from 2022. I'm going to do my Santa socks, and I have 2 socks that are the old heel. So they're my afterthought heel. So it's hard for me to go back and do that afterthought heel because I so like the new one, but I want to get these. It's just kind of like something that's nagging and hanging out there. And so I want to get those. I want to get those done. So I want to get 2 pair of those. So I'm committing. I'm very specific. The more specific you are, the more likely you are to reach your goals. So there's your March Sock Madness. Go introduce yourself, share what you want to do, and we'll be set and ready to go. So, all right, questions you have? Anybody? Janet says, no, the pattern doesn't have to be the Thicksgiving socks. It can be a DK sock. Yeah, in our yarn. Yep. Okay. Any other questions? Are you excited? Happy? Yeah.